What's up guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic part 3. Which is what if Naruto awakened the power of Sparda Naruto X Devil May Cry part 3. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel Anime Hub 1.2 for more fanfic like th. is. And now let's start the fanfic. Naruto trained hard in his personal training ground that he found near the outskirts of the village. The place was nothing more than a small meadow with a lake and a waterfall, and surrounding the area making it very peaceful. He was currently working on his devil arms but mainly on Nevin. These devil arms was not only powerful, but helps him learn some new type of skills. From Cerberus, he learned how to wield nunchucks and how to use them properly. This would be a bit better for him, as the tri-chucks were hard enough to master as it is. Agni and Rudra taught him how to use a two-handed sword style, meaning that he did not have to use Agni and Rudra alone, for there might be a time when he couldn't use his devil arms and knowing that helped greatly. Onagumo taught him how to scale walls and jumped higher than he normally could. Then came his personal favorite Nevin, much to her pleasure deep down. Naruto loved using this weapon, as it taught him how to use a guitar, a skill that he has desired to gain for a long time, but just never got around to try to find a teacher. The guitar taught him how to use the strings in any type of succession such as the stroke, the rift, and other details that he could really explain. He loved this weapon a lot, and couldn't stop working on it. He would sometimes work with this devil arm for damn near a day. A whole day of playing some songs that he knew, such as Do for Love by Tupac, Somewhere I Belong by Linkin Park, Land of Confusion by Disturbed, and Why by I.O.N. Yep, I like rock music. He played the weapon with a quick stroke of his hand, he sent the blast of lightning-infused bats towards a tree, and watched the attack destroy it in a glorious blaze of fire, which he put out of course. Naruto gasped at how powerful the weapon was, and found a smirk on his face once more. This is far too much fun for him. He began to play a rift of 50 notes, all in succession of each other, and during the process, the bats surrounded him in a lightning twister and destroyed most of the ground high. When he opened his dark purple silted eyes, he pointed towards one of the rock faces under the waterfall. With that hand gesture alone, that the bats sent a blast made of pure lightning that nearly destroyed the whole waterfall, had Naruto not sent the attack over the waterfall. He was marveled at the intensity the blast held and how much energy it took in. You like that, master? That is the extent of my power, but you haven't seen what my full power can do. Nevin said with Naruto smirking to himself, as he returned Nevin to his body, returning the tattoo before it disappeared. I look forward to that. Naruto thought before biting his thumb and summoned a dragon. The dragon was about his height, only a bit taller and was light blue in color. It was currently standing on all fours with its wings located near its lower back, which looked great for gliding in the air and flying at quick speeds. He walked up to the dragon and petted its head. How are you doing, Saphira? I hope you're doing well. He said with the dragon lowering its neck. Could have been better. There's not much to do in the summoning realm and the only type of excitement I get is when you summon me for rides or to help you prank from the air above. Saphira said as Naruto got on her back, as she raised her wings and took off into the air. Well, don't worry. Soon you and I will be able to fight together, but for now let's just enjoy this. He said with the dragon screeching loudly, before it increased its speed and made the flight much more enjoyable. Later, with Team 7, Naruto and Saphira arrived to his training grounds to see his teammates were still waiting for their tardy sensei to come. He sighed inwardly, as he watched his teammates glare at him because he was late. Little did they know that he figured that if Kakashi were always 3 hours late then he would arrive after 2 hours and 55, of which the team was supposed to arrive. This gave him extra time to train, fly with Saphira, have breakfast, and would still be on time and would only have to wait 5 minutes before their sensei arrived. They did not like that one bit. Naruto, you're late again, Sakura screeched, trying to punch him, only for him to grab her hand and sighed. For the last time, Pinky, I am early since Kakashi is here. Also, when will you get it through your head? He said as he placed foot behind Sakura's feet and pushed the girl forward, making her trip over his foot and and on her, that I am stronger than you. I can hurt you 20 times more than you could to me. Naruto said, walking over her down position, and walked towards the bridge's post, not seeing the glare Sakura was giving the back of his head, hoping that she could find some way to make Naruto her puppet again, and personal punching bag to take her anger out on. Naruto stood at the bridge with Saphira next to him. He scratched the dragon's head while Sasuke was glaring at him. Dobi, how is it that you are in command of that dragon? Sasuke asked, as he saw how the dragon was appealing to Naruto, like she was his master, and he felt that he deserved that dragon far more than Naruto did. Because I earned her respect and she named me her master when I saved her on my mission a few weeks back. Naruto said, since it was the truth but just twisted so he could still be telling the truth and not lying. Give her to me, he said with the dragon growling at him, only to feel its head being scratched a little more, telling her that he got it. No, was all Naruto said as Sasuke gave him a growl. Perhaps you didn't hear me, I said give me the dragon Dobi. He said with Sakura telling Naruto to do what he said, only to back off when the dragon growled at her. Sasuke would have continued had it not been for the barrel of his gun aimed at his face with the finger threatening to pull the trigger and he himself telling the boy to shut his trap. This was the scene Kakashi arrived to when he finally arrived to his training ground. It seemed that Naruto sensed him, when he put his gun away and looked at his location. About time you showed up, Cyclops, I got bored with Duck and Pinky McFlat shirt. Naruto said, making his teammates growl at that comment, though it was quickly wiped out when Saphira growled at them. Okay. Today we have another D-rank mission, so let's go. He said with the team following him, with Saphira coming along, and walked next to Naruto. Later. D-rank mission. The figure dashed towards freedom at the highest speed possible for him, desperate to escape his pursuers. As he made his escape, he used the darkness of his surroundings to the best of his ability. He would not be caught and sent back into that hell, not today, and never again. Panting heavily, he stopped for breath, warily searching his surroundings before sighing, having not located his pursuers. Target located. Raven in position. A voice whispered quietly into an earpiece, the owner eyeing its target. Cherry Blossom in position. A second voice whispered through gritted teeth. White noise with target in hand. Returning to the rendezvous point. Came the third voice with the sound of purring coming through the intercom link. This was the 5th time that Team 7 had to take on this mission and they were tired of it, well Sasuke and Sakura was, as the cat would scratch and claw them to the point of no return, but whenever Naruto came by, the cat would jump right into his arms as if he was the beast's master. I think Tora needs a new home. I know I'll give him to Ayame-chan, since she said she loves cats. He thought, petting the cat, who purred loudly, showing how much it liked the boy. He quickly made 2 shadow clones and gave them their instructions to make sure that this would be the last time all the genin teams would take on a mission like this. Within 2 minutes, Team 7 now stood before the Hokage, who was glad that the daimyo's wife had her cat back in her hands and was out of this village. So far the cat ran away 20 times, with each genin team taking a good amount of those missions, but after seeing Naruto's smirk he could tell that the boy already had something planned, and it wouldn't be pretty. Okay, Cell 7, seeing as how you have completed your 25th D-rank mission, you are now eligible to take on a C-rank mission. He said, with the team instantly accepting the mission, as they were tired of the D-rank mission they had to take. There was one where they had to babysit about 5 kids and all of them cried whenever Sakura and Sasuke were around, but Naruto would always do better than them. The 2 genin would never understand how a boy, who was stupid that many people thought he couldn't read, was able to take great care of 5 kids, who would always giggle and laugh whenever he was around them, or would want to be picked up by him. Little did they know, Nevin gave him knowledge not just on how to satisfy any women but also how to be a great father as well. Naruto just simply applied that knowledge and used it to help make those kids enjoy themselves. Alright then, your team will be responsible for the escort and protection of a man named Tazuna. You are to escort him to Wave Country and guard him there until the bridge he is building over there is completed. The most you can expect on this mission is a small band of bandits from time to time. You are to pack for a 2-week stay in Wave, but for now, I would like you to meet your client. Let him in, Sarutobi said with the guards opening the door. Okay, you already know what he looks like, so we'll just skip the intro and go straight the mission. Later that day, Team 7 was now on their way to the country of Wave, with Sasuke on Tazuna's right, Sakura on his left, Kakashi by his side, and Naruto in the front. Currently the group were doing their own thing, with Sakura asking Tazuna what Wave was like, which lead to Kakashi talking about the shinobi nations and how the leaders with the title of Kage in their countries were known as some of the most powerful people to exist. Sakura then went on to ask question after question on how the system of shinobis worked and all that other shit that Naruto didn't truly care about. He had a feeling that something was not right in this situation, as he gained the danger sense from Kyuubi. Whenever he would go somewhere, he would get an extreme feeling of weirdness or danger. In addition, right now it was the feeling of weirdness. And indeed his sense proved itself to be right again, as they walked by a puddle in the middle of the road. Sasuke, Sakura, and Tazuna did not think anything of it. However, Naruto and Kakashi could easily tell it was a low chunin level genjutsu. It's summer and it hasn't rained in this area for 2 weeks. That puddle is not even in the shade. I sense 2 chakra signatures underground below it, mid-chunin at best. Meh. Beggars can't be choosers. Naruto looked at Kakashi. Kakashi, of course, knew about the shinobi hidden underneath the puddle, and he knew that Naruto knew. Naruto started making subtle hand signs, and Kakashi instantly understood. Anbu signs. How the hell does he know Anbu signs? Kakashi thought, but responded with more signs. The hand signs translated roughly into this: 2 chunin under the puddle. Quote, I know. Should I engage? No. Wait. They may have information that we need. Very well. Naruto and Kakashi continued like nothing was wrong. After they ped the puddle, 2 figures dressed in cameo pants and tattered cloaks arose from the water. They both had black hair and wore gas masks. They had wicked clawed gauntlets on opposite arms that were connected with a chain made of small interlocking blades. They had on forehead protectors with the hidden mist symbol and a slash going through the middle, identifying them as Nuke Nin from Kuriga. Kur no Sato, the village hidden in the mist. The 2 then went on the offensive, with one throwing the other towards the group, but Naruto was already prepared for it. Before any of them could see it, Naruto quickly spun around and fired off 2 rounds from Reaper and another 2 rounds off Angel. The bullet sailed between Sasuke and Tazuna and between Tazuna and Sakura. The bullets each separated to where 2 flew towards the chain and broke it in half, before the other bullets hit both men in different places. For the man airborne, he was hit in his stomach, while the other was hit between his eyes, knocking him out. Naruto then put his guns away and summoned Kyuubi to his hands and reappeared in front of the man that he shot in the stomach, within 1 second flat. He then removed the Mon's gauntlet arm and stabbed him through the same spot he shot him in. The man coughed up blood through his face mask, but before he died, Naruto whispered to him, I'm sorry. May you rest in peace. Before igniting his sword and burning the body, but not before removing the Mon's head, as the head was guaranteed big bank in the shinobi world for people that had nuke ninja status. This all happened in no less than 10 seconds, and Kakashi was now in absolute shock at what just happened. Naruto just single-handedly taken out 2 chunin level ninja in less than 5 seconds. The fastest time he has ever seen a ninja get taken out was by the hands of his sensei several years ago before the death of his best friend. His sensei had moved in no less than 5 seconds and took out 5 ninjas within that time. He quickly regained his composure when he saw Naruto tie one of the Chunin from mist and woke him up with smelling salts. Ah, what happened? The Nuke Nin said groggily. You were defeated, and your brother is dead. Naruto said. The monk's eyes snapped open. What? Then he saw the white-haired kid carrying his brother's severed head. Oh my god. Big bro, he choked. Naruto snorted. Don't worry, you'll be joining him soon. Naruto said as he tightened his hold on his sword and making fire surround his sword once more. The monk's eyes closed, as he accepted his fate at the hands of a more skilled opponent. Granted, said opponent was much younger than him, but an opponent nonetheless. Who are you? He asked. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. May you and your brother rest in peace. With that, Naruto swung his blade at the ex-Mist Nin's neck and sent him to join his brother in the afterlife. The boy then removed his gauntlet arm before he stabbed his sword into the monk's body and once again burning it to ash. Naruto then pulled out a scroll and sealed the head and arms of the two brothers into it. They would be very useful in the future. When Naruto turned, he saw that his whole team was looking at him with shock, surprise, and fear. For Kakashi it was surprise, as he never once thought that Naruto has killed before, but to see that the boy was not affected by their deaths meant that it was yet another mystery to be solved about the boy. For Tazuna it was pure shock that a boy barely older than his grandson was able to kill another human being. But it was thanks to the kind of past that he was able to suffice the idea of a boy being able to kill someone. Though honestly speaking, he was a ninja and that was probably what was expected of them. For Sasuke and Sakura it was pure shock. They had just seen their teammate kill two Chunin-level ninja without an ounce of remorse or pity for those he took from the earth. Sasuke felt like he had just seen his brother once again kill his father before him and kidnap his mother all those years ago. Sakura, however, being a part of a clan that had little to no shinobi involvement, was now beyond shocked and scared out of her mind. She did not know what to think of Naruto, other than the fact that he could very well be the monster her parents told her he was. Naruto noticed their looks of shock and growled. Damn it, you two. He snarled as he walked up to them. Wipe those looks off your faces. This is what a ninja is, we are trained to kill. What? Did you think being a shinobi would be all fun and games? That you would never have to get your hands dirty? That you would never have to do any wet work? You two are more pathetic than I thought. Did you ever stop to wonder why the targets at the academy were shaped like humans? Or why the areas where vital organs would be were circled and pointed out? Moreover, if it still has not gotten through your thick skulls, every famous ninja in history has gotten their titles by killing more people than others. Even the Yondaime got his nickname by killing hundreds of Iwa nin in the last Great War. Do you think Hatake got his title of copycat ninja by just copying enemy techniques? No, he got it by copying them and turning the techniques against his enemies, and killing them. That's how legends are made. The survivors of the attacks tell others of the carnage they witnessed, and that ninja's fame spreads. He took two small blue books out of his jacket. These are copies of the most recent bingo book. Read it all the way through. Read about what some of the shinobi have done to get themselves into this book. Then you will understand what a ninja really is. And if you don't, then you might as well quit while you still have a head. With his speech over, Naruto brushed by both shocked genin. Kakashi held a look of sadness in his eye as he watched Naruto walk away. But he knew what he said was completely true. They should really start teaching that in the academy, then the genin mortality rate wouldn't be so damn high. After about 5 minutes of walking, the group stopped again. Naruto turned to Tazuna. Alright, Tazuna-san, the demon brothers were after you for a reason. What is that reason? Naruto asked, but from him it was more of a demand. Kakashi was shocked to know that Naruto knew who they were but quickly remembered that Naruto probably had remembered their face. From the bingo book he had in his possession. Tazuna gulped and tried to play dumb. I don't know what you're talking about, he was saying until Naruto then pulled out Reaper and fired a round that scratched his cheek, making the old man freeze in fear. Don't wit me, old man. Those two were highly trained ins in the shinobi arts and were the apprentices of Momochi Zabuza. They know the silent kill technique as they demonstrated with the puddle, and could have just as easily killed you if those two morons, Flat Chest and Needle, were the leaders of this group. They do not perform a kill for fun, only if the pay is good will they perform the silent kill, so there is a puppet master and I want to know who is pulling the strings. And in case you want to try and lie, he said, firing off 3 rounds. 2 sailed past his neck and 1 sailed under the package, if you know what I mean. Don't think I would miss again intentionally. Naruto said with a very serious look on his face, with his finger threatening to pull the trigger. The others were too stunned to even move right now, and Tazuna was contemplating on what he should do. On one hand, he could tell the boy what he wanted to know and maybe the boy would stay on the mission, but if he chose not to, he would either die, or lose his partner in crime. Actually, it wasn't that bad of a situation to tell them that if you think about it. Tazuna gulped before he sighed heavily. You are correct, they are after me. As you may know, Wave is a super poor country, but it was not always like that. Wave was once a prosperous place, full of happy people. Then Gato came with his army of mercenaries. We have no ninja village, so we had no way to defend ourselves from them and they took over. I knew Gato had sent some of his mercs after me, but I didn't know they were ninja, honest. Quote, Kakashi sighed. You do realize that this is now an A-CL mission, if what Naruto said is true. Yes, I know, but I couldn't pay for an A-CL, or even a BCL mission. I beg of you, please continue the mission. After I finish the bridge, Wave will be able to trade again and everything will be back to normal. I can pay you properly for an A-CL mission, even give you all a bonus. But please, if not for me, then do it for the people in my country. Tazuna was on his knees now. Kakashi sighed. It's not my decision alone. He looked back at Sakura and Sasuke. It's a team decision. Naruto scoffed. Come on, Hataki-sensei, if the kiddies want to go, then let them. But I'm staying, whether you like it or not. Kakashi narrowed his eye at Naruto. And why do you care so much? First off, Kakashi, I would much rather help the man out, seeing as how he's on his knees begging for our help. Second, I got more money in the bank than this little C or A rank mission could give, so I don't give a rat's about the money. Thirdly, he obviously had to go to great lengths to save his land from this tyrant of his, so he had a reason to lie. Lastly, Naruto then looked at his hands and saw a faint trace of energy flying of his hand. There is something about this place that gets me excited. Like a challenge that is just waiting to happen the moment I step foot in the place. So regardless if those two don't want to go, I'm still going. They can try to mark me as a nuke ninja all they want because the most they could mark me with is AD rank nuke nin status, must be returned unharmed to the village. Under absolutely no circumstances must he be harmed or else the person bringing him in will be charging with an alt felony and must face 2 years in prison. In addition, seeing as how the old man is on my side, I could not possibly face anything more than that. So they can go back with their tails between their legs like they always do. Naruto said, knowing that he hit a very sensitive spot. Kakashi shook his head and sighed. Just like Itachi. He thought, then turned to his other 2 students. So, what will you do? Will you stay, or do you want to turn back? Sasuke growled. If this Dobi thinks he going to get ahead of me, he has another thing coming, I'm staying. Sakura however was a different, Kakashi-sensei, we can't go. No matter how tough Naruto tries to sound or how brave Sasuke-kun is, we are all inexperienced. We need to go back and let someone of higher rank do this, not us. Sakura was saying until Naruto gave her a look that truly scared her. It was the look of stone-cold warrior. Preparing to fight an army of demons, with eyes that spoke one word to her. Pathetic. I knew you were useless, just like your whole clan. Naruto said, making the girl look ready to cry, and don't think that I give a shit about your crying, you weak and useless. Excuse for a ninja. Naruto was saying with the girl showing tears that were beginning to form. Naruto, stop it right now, that was much too uncalled for. Kakashi said, even though he did agree with Naruto on all of it. Sakura was the only member of the new set of rookies to not be a part of a shinobi clan. Naruto was a huge exception, not being in a clan, but it was due to certain circumstances that caused him to be an orphan. Who cares if it's uncalled for? She needs to learn where her place is in life, and that she would have to change herself if she wants to be a real ninja. All she is doing is proving that she is a worthless person and kunoichi. She is pathetic and worthless, yet you allow her to try to think that she is on my level. The difference between us is that I can do something about my problems, but she can't do shit for herself in the village, other than being a decoy or a lamb to sacrifice to the wolves. Naruto sounding very pissed off, and felt that this would finally make the girl get the picture that she was useless, and would have to change herself to prove that she was not. That however was stopped when the girl fully broke into tears and Kakashi was now in his face glaring daggers into his eyes. Naruto, you're crossing the line. I am the leader here and you will follow my orders. He said before Naruto glared him to and began to leak killing intent. Kakashi was surprised at first, but that didn't stop him from responding with his own. Listen well, Kakashi, because I'm not going to repeat myself. I don't care if you're in Kami with the Shinigami and his legion of demons by his side. You may be a Junin, but I am still stronger than both of these weaklings here. I have to be the one to pick up the slack that they can't carry. I have to be the one to save their sorry ass when the world finally stops shitting on them. If you want to hold their little hands in the battlefield, then that's fine, but what I will be doing is fighting alongside the other warriors. The village needs to protect it. Naruto said with Kakashi stepping back, but their glares were still headed. Let's go, was all Naruto said as he walked away with the group in tow, while Kakashi was carrying a still distraught Sakura. 20 minutes later. The group was now walking for a full 20 minutes, with 5 going to traveling across the lake to get to the soils of Wave Country. However, it was during this walk did Naruto sense something or someone was watching them. Kid, you're not wrong, as I sense it too. Be very cautious about this opponent as I sense a lot of killing intent aimed at the old man. Kyuubi said with Naruto nodding, as he saw Sasuke fling a kunai at a branch only to reveal it to be a snow-white bunny. Something a weakling like Sakura would pee off as nothing, but a true shinobi like Kakashi and those with sense like himself and Sasuke knew otherwise. Naruto then began to make hand signs to Kakashi, who responded with his own. The rabbit's coat was white when it should be brown. Quote, yes, plus it's native to this land as that type of rabbit is only seen in mist. How do you think it got there? I would say the enemy used a substitution to replace himself with the rabbit so we would all fall for his trap. Quote, should we engage him now? Yes, as soon as he makes his move. As soon as they were finished, Naruto saw the bunny hop away and began to walk forward, before pulling out Blood Fang. The boy then turned on his left heel and off one of its high-powered rounds at the tree. He knew the enemy was. The bullet hit the tree and set it on fire, before a huge sword flew out of the flames and headed directly for them. Get down, was all Kakashi yelled, as he pulled down both Tazuna and Sakura. Everyone then felt the large blade fly over their downed bodies and embedded itself into a tree, with a figure standing on the handle of the sword. It was a tall man with bandages wrapped around the lower half of his face. His forehead protector was off to the side of his head and he had no eyebrows. He wore 2 forearm warmers with a cameo pattern on them, and he wore baggy pants with the same pattern, and black ninja sandals. Momochi Zabuza, A-CL Nuke Nin from Kurigakure. One of the legendary 7 swordsmen of the mist. It is an honor to meet a killer of your caliber. Naruto said, staring intently at the tall swordsman. Zabuza chuckled evilly. So, one of the brats knows me, I see you have trained them well. Copycat ninja Hatake Kakashi. Kakashi was about to say something, but Naruto cut him off with a scoff. He has taught us absolutely nothing. But he and the others are irrelevant right now, get down here and let's fight. Naruto said as he brought forth his sword Yamato and unsheathed the sword and held it in his right hand and placed the sheath on his hip. The two charged each other, their swords hitting the others hard, and their feet creating foot impressions in the earth beneath them. Zabuza swung horizontally while Naruto blocked, groaning as his body was smaller than Zabuza's, which had more muscle on it than his 12-year-old body did, and push. The Junin level missing Nin back with great difficulty. This time, it was Naruto's turn to attack, as he charged forward spinning his blade as he went before he unleashed a diagonal swing to Zabuza, and the taller man jumped out of the way while a tree behind him collapsed from being the one slick. Ed in 2. He's good. That sword is different too. It is not like Kisami's sword or the other 7 swordsmen with their blades having their own unique powers. No. This sword that's in the kid's hands has a more natural feeling, or at least done in a more refined way, than the others, and if I did know any better I would say I felt something else in it, thought a curious Zabuza, wondering what his observing subordinate's thoughts were of this matter. I see you're curious about my sword. Allow me to introduce to you Yamato, one of the prized swords from my clan. Naruto said before sent a diagonal slash towards Zabuza and a blast in the shape of a moon flew at Zabuza, who luckily jumped out of the way. Naruto then resheathed Yamato and called out, "Summon swords." Bringing the transparent ghost swords back, Naruto sent 4 at Zabuza and kept 2 with him. Zabuza blocked all the swords with his own sword and knocked them away, only to be hit by 2 more in his right shoulder and left abdomen. He grunted through the pain and began to make hand signs. "You won't beat me. I can still fight," Zabuza said, producing his hand signs faster. Naruto saw this and began to form his own seals with his left hand before waiting for Zabuza to finish his. Water release. Water Dragon Jutsu, Lightning Release, Lightning Dragon, they both yelled at the same time. Behind Zabuza and huge plume of water formed the shape of a dragon and looked prepared to attack, while above Naruto lightning came down but in the form of a dragon. Both men then sent their attacks towards each other, but Zabuza forgot that in nature, lightning is stronger than water. Indeed, that was what happened, as the lightning dragon tore through the water dragon and exploded right in front of him. He was sent flying through the air and landed right beneath a tree, coughing up blood in the process. He looked up and saw Naruto walking towards him with his sword still on his hip. His eyes looked like that of a true warrior's eye. The boy then held up his right arm, and began to form a Rasengan while he spoke. "Momochi Zabuza, I have seen your will to fight and desire to live. For that one fact alone, I will give you the death only a warrior of your caliber deserves and only hit you in a place where you shall die on your own." Naruto, Rasengan fully formed in his hand, and poised to end Zabuza's life. Before he could perform that action, a pair of Senbon flew through the air and pierced the Mon's neck. "Thank you for defeating Momochi Zabuza so easily for me. It gave me the chance to take him down myself while he was distracted with you," said the now appeared masked shinobi-clothed individual, who, if from what Naruto learned, was a hunter ninja with the mask worn signifying that status. "No problem, but I have a question for you before you do take the big guy away," said Naruto, his eyes narrowing at this hunter nin, who seemed to stiffen slightly at the possible question. "Yes," said the hunter nin, now having the dead body on his shoulders. "Why aren't you disposing of the body right now?" said Naruto, his pupils becoming slits, and he heard the hunter nin's heartbeat increasing at the question. "Until we meet again, Leaf Shinobi," said the fake hunter nin before disappearing, with Zabuza deciding that even though the rescue had been botched, it was only at the last second in terms of false identity. "Indeed," said Naruto before allowing Yamato to disappear into his arm. It then that his teammates arrived to the scene, only to find him standing there waiting for their arrival. After saying a few things towards each other, the group walked off to Tazuna's house. Things were bound to get interesting further down the path they were on. "Damn it, Haku. Did you have to hit me in the neck like that? It hurts like hell before and after the needles make contact, said Zabuza, pulling the last needle out of his neck and angry as hell had demons. It was the only way, Zabuza-sama. It wouldn't have been as effective had I hit anywhere else, said Haku, removing her mask, revealing a beautiful young GI. RL with long black hair, with a face one would think was so innocent you wouldn't think twice as to believe she was some missing nin's subordinate. That was one of the reasons why Zabuza knew she would be so deadly when he took her from Mist and made her into his apprentice in the shinobi arts. You're soft yet ruthless at the same time, Haku. I can almost pity the poor boy you wrap around your fingers to become your boyfriend, said Zabuza, letting out a chuckle before he gurgled a little and spit out some blood once he peeled off the bandages. Only thanks to your training, Zabuza-sama, said Haku, while keeping the thought of having a boyfriend while an open possibility one day was something to be saved for a later date. Tazuna's house one day later. 2 days had passed since the battle against Zabuza. Team 7 had made it to Tazuna's house that same day, where Kakashi told them that they would have the next 2 days to themselves while he looked over the situation. Sasuke had spent the time brooding while Sakura spent her time fawning over Sasuke. In an effort to avoid both his teammates and Tazuna's emo grandson, Naruto had spent the entire week away from the house, leaving a few clones stationed around the place. The week had been extremely fruitful for the blonde as he'd dedicated it to training. All week he'd had clones working on chakra control exercises, his devil arms, and how to charge his guns with his chakra. He had been hard at work on developing a new skill with his guns called gun kata, which allowed him to fight hand-to-hand combat with his guns. He was also trying to find a way to transfer the power of serenity into his guns to make them far more dangerous and lethal than they already were. Okay, let's see. I would first have to focus serenity solely into the gun, then fire off multiple rounds. Shouldn't be too hard, he thought as he began to focus his energy into Angel and Reaper, watching them glow a bright silver before he pulled the trigger. He felt the force the gun shot with him being pushed back a little, but he kept firing till he saw the glow leave the gun. He then saw the tree he fired at actually fell over, due to the force of the guns. He was truly shocked that the weapons had that type of power, and was also happy that he had that type of power in his hand. He has been working hard on that move for a while, and he was sure with a little more training he could do that at will and probably charge the guns faster. He put his guns away and walked back to the house, seeing as how he was pretty tired from the training he had undergone, and returned to the house to find his teammates and sensei all sitting at the table and seemingly enjoying a cup of tea. Yo, Naruto, good thing you're here. I wish to go over something that just came up in this mission. Kakashi said, with Naruto shrugging his shoulders and sat down, with Tsunami placing a cup of tea in front of him, and he himself thanking the woman before drinking it. Okay, Team 7, I recently came up with some disturbing news about what happened. It appears that Zabuza is still alive, he said, with Sasuke and Sakura looking shocked besides Naruto, who looked as if he already knew. Kakashi saw this and asked, Naruto, how come you're not surprised? I already knew that Zabuza was still alive, due to the method that the hunter ninja used, he said, with Sasuke looking at him. Please, Dobi, like you actually know how he's still alive. Quote, actually, Sasuke, he's right, Kakashi said, with the other two looking towards their sensei in disbelief. He then went into explanation of what a hunter ninja is and what they do. He explained to them what the death state was and how it is used to help bring their targets back to the village the why are wanted in. He also talked of how the method the hunter used was an actual diversion, so that way they would be fooled into thinking the man was dead when in fact he was still alive. To say the least, Sasuke and Sakura were shocked while Naruto just sipped more of his tea. I take it that since Zabuza still lives there will be training involved? Naruto asked, with Kakashi nodding. Naruto yawned into his hand before he got up from his seat. Very well then, I'm going to go have a meeting between my eyes and eyelids, Naruto said as he walked up to his room, and fell into a deep sleep. The next day, Naruto was now standing with his teammates in front of 3 trees, but he already knew what was going on. The kiddies were about to do the tree walking exercise, something that Anko already taught him. It simply involved you focusing your chakra to your feet and trying to climb to the highest point of the tree as you can. The only twist that you had to use your feet only. Naruto didn't feel like doing this at all, so he simply stood there to see Kakashi stand before them all. Okay team, due to the injuries Zabuza sustained, he is bound to be bedridden for the next 1 or 2 weeks. So during this time you all are going to learn how to climb trees. Kakashi said with Sasuke and Sakura looking confused. How could climbing trees help them get stronger when they already knew how to climb trees? But Kakashi-sensei, we already know how to climb trees. How is that supposed to help us? Sakura asked with Naruto sighing, getting everyone's attention. Naruto sighed. You really shouldn't have called it climbing trees. He turned to the nearest tree and walked to it, then walked straight up to the top branch, then hung upside down. Its proper name it, tree walking. He unstuck himself and landed on the ground without a sound. Kakashi looked at Naruto. Quote. Very good Naruto. Do you know how to walk on wa? He was cut off by Naruto. Yes, I can fight on top of water. Quote. Kakashi sighed. Okay. Just how many exercises do you know? I know surface clinging, water walking, kunai and senbon balancing. I know 2 more exercises that I am not willing to tell, and I'm currently working on waterfall running. Quote. Kakashi's jaw damn near dropped. Even he had trouble with senbon balancing, and he'd only heard of a few people running up waterfalls. Oh. I see. I guess you can go do whatever it is you do, Naruto. He said with the boy nodding and simply sat on one of the stumps in the area with his arms crossed. Kakashi then turned his attention to his other 2 students, who were too busy looking at Naruto to notice that he was looking at them, but they then turned their heads back to Kakashi, who sighed before he spoke. The key to this exercise is to focus just the right amount of chakra into the bottom of your feet, then use it to stick to the surface. Too little chakra and you'll fall, too much and you'll blow yourself off of the tree. Use these kunai to mark your maximum height. Kakashi then sat on a stump and pulled out his porn. This earned him death glares from Sakura. Sasuke and Sakura picked up their kunai and both ran at their designated trees. Sasuke planted his foot into the tree, splintering the wood, and ran up the tree trunk. But he only made it about 5 feet before he had to jump off. Kakashi didn't even look up from his book. You didn't use enough chakra, Sasuke. Quote. Sasuke growled and was about to try again, but a voice from above stopped him. Look, Sasuke-kun, I did it. Sakura squealed happily while sitting on the top branch of her tree. Good job, Sakura. You have excellent chakra control. Kakashi smiled at her for that. That's only because her power reserves are so small, she doesn't have that much to control. So the only reason she could do this is because she's weak. Naruto said. There was no way in hell he was going to let some mediocre accomplishment go to the girl's head. Sakura nearly fell out of the tree. Shut up, Naruto. What the hell do you know? She screamed. I know that my chakra reserves are larger than you 2 little bitches in this clearing combined. I know that you come from a family that has no shinobi in its ranks, which is why your chakra levels are so low. I know that you have never truly trained. I know that you rely on your book smarts to get you through, and even then you aren't as smart as many. And I know that you will be a liability to this team in the future if you don't get your act together. And liabilities are to be dealt with. Naruto said coldly. Sakura was on the verge of tears now. She knew it was all true, but she just didn't want to accept it. Kakashi snapped his book shut and glared at Naruto. Naruto, that's enough. You have gone too far this time. Naruto glared at Kakashi. Stuff it, you pigging Cyclops. You should be the one telling her this, so I'm doing your job for you. I just don't sugarcoat anything. Ever. I'm only telling her what she needs to hear, but doesn't want to. No, you're not. You're just wearing down her confidence. I wonder why though, maybe to build yours up. Kakashi smirked. Naruto snorted. Why would I need to build my confidence up? I'm stronger than them by far and can take you on for more than an hour, so my confidence doesn't need any boosting. Kakashi narrowed his eye. Then maybe it needs a reduction. Quote, and maybe you need to grow a set. I don't care what you three do, but all I know is that I'm out of here. Naruto said as he walked away from the group, with Kakashi sighing before he looked over to Sakura to see that she was trying to hold back the tears but was failing horribly. He then turned to find Sasuke continuing the exercise that he had to learn, not even trying to see if the girl was okay. How could I get a team like this? We've been together for almost 6 months and yet they haven't formed not a single bond with each other yet. Asuma's team has the best teamwork of the 9 and Kurenai's team has the best balance of the 9, yet this team is the strongest but lacks all 3 credentials. How can I fix this, sensei? He thought before going over to the pink-haired girl to try to console her. Maybe this was the best way to do it. With Naruto, the white-haired boy walked through an open field of GR. The wind was strong here and the clouds were beginning to produce rain. He didn't mind the rain at all, in fact he loved it. There was something about it that made him just stop to watch it fall from the sky, putting him at peace for the moment. But at the time, he knew it wasn't important as he had to get some training done. He quickly crossed his fingers and brought forth a shadow clone before telling him to stand on the other side of the field. He then closed his eyes before opening them to reveal that they were red and silted. His body burst into flames before the flames left him and traveled towards the clone, surrounding his body in the fire. The flames continued to stay around him before they left, and all that was left a man with long red hair and 9 swishing tails behind his back. He wore plates of iron black, semi-iridescent armor with thin but intricate designs of vines and leaves on them. Where the armor didn't cover, a comfortable thick black material covered him. Kyuubi stared at the boy for a moment before he spoke. So Kit, are you ready? He asked while taking a stance. Yep. On your call. Naruto said with the man nodding. Go, he said with Naruto nodding. The boy then summoned forth the chakra veil of Kyuubi with one tail forming and a second one soon after, but the third didn't come. It appears that you can handle 2 tails now. That shows great improvement, but you still have a lot to do before you can truly use my power. He said with Naruto nodding before he took a stance as well. The white-haired boy quickly went on the offensive and did some quick seals before calling out, Fire Release, Fireball Jutsu. The familiar technique flew to the knight, who held up his hand and blocked the flame before squeezing his hand. Naruto appeared before him, sending a forward jab to the mon's face, which was blocked as well. The boy growled before sending out his clawed left hand at the mon's face, but it was grabbed before he could even do any damage. Don't warm up, Naruto, you need to be able to handle my power properly. I know what you are trying to do, so just fight me. Kyuubi said before heading-butting Naruto, then sending a knee to his gut. The boy coughed loudly before his body vanished, causing Kyuubi to turn around, only to be punched by the half-devil. The man placed his hands on the ground before pushing himself back to his feet. He immediately crossed his arms to block the chakra claw the boy sent. Naruto then utilized this small window and pulled himself to Kyuubi's location. He then made some one-handed seals before calling out, Fire Release, Fireball Jutsu, and exhaling the plume of fire in the red-haired mon's direction. Kyuubi knew he could block it again, as his arms were tethered by the chakra claw, so instead he slammed his foot on the ground. As he did that, a barrier of earth surrounded him and protected him from the flames. The white-haired boy let go of the knight and skidded along the ground while the earth barrier fell to reveal a smirking Kyuubi. Earth Release. Ring of Earth. Something that you should have seen coming. He said with a smirk on his face before it fell once he saw Naruto's. Oh, you mean like this? He said as he vanished once more, causing Kyuubi's eyes to widen before turned around, only to see Naruto holding a sphere in his right hand. Rasengan, he called out, sending it towards Kyuubi's head, only to be surprised when the red-haired man grabbed his extended right arm before crushing it in his palm. Naruto cried out when he felt the bones break, before he pulled his arm away from the fox demon. Not bad smart, although you would want to try to completely catch me off guard. Kyuubi said before once more going on the offensive. Naruto sighed before taking up a stance. This would take while. 2 hours later, Naruto stood on the ground, with his hands on his knees and sweat dripping from the top of his skull. Kyuubi smirked at his vessel, knowing that the boy was doing far better than his expectations would be. Or perhaps he was just getting the full extent of his potential. Who knows at this point? He then walked up to the former blonde and placed a hand on the boy's shoulder, his smirk wider than ever. You've done well, my boy, but for now take a break. You need to rest up before tomorrow, as we will be kicking it to high gear. He said before he vanished into a puff of smoke and returned to the seal. High gear, I thought that I was going through that today. Oh well, I need to get some sleep. He said. He didn't feel like returning to Tazuna's house, knowing that he would have to apologize to Sakura for what he said to her. He looked around before his eyes spotted a perfect spot for him to rest in under a tree, and in the blink of an eye, he was under shading out like a light. If only he knew what was in store for tomorrow. What's up everyone? I still don't know how I managed out 2 chapters last time, but I did. Now I'm sure you're wondering what will happen in the future of this story, and I can guarantee that this one will be on for a while. I would say that 50 chapters will be the highest I go for this one, and I will try to remain as original as I can. Also, for those wondering why I'm involving pieces from some of the action fics, it's pretty simple. Those movies are best used in a DMC cross because DMC is the best one to feature guns. Also, seeing as a good amount of the movies involves guns, then I figured why not use those. There will be more coming, though I'm not sure if I'll give Naruto more power from the movies, but the one thing I have planned will make sure that I don't waste them. And one more important detail, last chapter the thing with the fox was another thing I asked from Devilkes. He's a real cool person like VFSNAKE and Dragonman 180, and very smart like Burning Truth and several others that I don't remember. Also, I think I should explain the reason why I asked for it. It was to copy a certain game that had a trilogy, but the second was the best out of the 3. Well, I don't feel like going on. A young girl walked into a clearing carrying a small basket. She was around 15 years old and wore a pink yukata with cherry blossom petal designs on it. Her long, dark brown hair swayed behind her as she walked towards the place she knew so well. Those herbs are around here somewhere, Haku thought, as she continued looking until something caught her eye. It was a white-haired boy sleeping soundly under the shade of the tree, but this boy had enlarged whisker-like marks on his cheeks. She felt her breath get caught in her throat, as she recognized him as the boy that fought Zabuza and beat him a while ago. She felt need to be wary of this boy, for all she knew he was already awake and watching her. But she assumed that he didn't know who she was, so she acted like any normal, naive civilian girl would. Haku grabbed the boy's shoulder and shook him. Hey mister, you shouldn't sleep out here, she said, with Naruto beginning to stir before opening his eyes and letting loose a loud yawn. Naruto then stood up, showing that he was at least 2 inches taller than Haku, and bent his neck to the right, making it crack loudly. Why? He asked, trying to get his body to wake up, although it was failing miserably since he wasn't a morning person. You might catch a cold, she said, though finding it a little hard to look completely at him for some odd reason. Naruto turned his head to face her. I never get sick, it's not possible for me, he said, already knowing who the girl was, even before she entered the clearing, but he decided to play why along for the times being. So, why are you here? It's not safe for pretty girls to walk around this place alone, he said, with the girl tense a little as if she was preparing for a fight. I'm just here to gather herbs for someone, she said, trying not to sound convincing, even though she didn't know that Naruto already recognized her to be the hunter ninja from before. Right. So please tell me, why are you here? And when I asked that question, I mean, why are you in Wave Country with Zabuza? Naruto said with Haku's eyes widening. She quickly tried to play around the new development, but Naruto's look told her not to try it. I take it you understand what the situation is right now. I know that you were the hunter ninja that saved Zabuza when I was trying to give him an honorable death. So why the hell are you here? Naruto asked with the girl sighing. So, how did why you figure it out? She asked while looking away from the boy's gaze. It's simple, the scents on your body are similar to that of the hunter. Plus I smell the scent of blood and sweat that responds to Zabuza's own, which tells me you were working with him. Now if you would be so kind to enlighten me why you are here. Naruto said with the girl looking at him for a few seconds before she spoke. I'm here because I'm hiding from the hunter ninja in my country. She said as she told him about her past and everything she went through, such as killing her father because he killed her mother when he learned that she had a bloodline, how she had to live on the streets until she came across Zabuza. And from that moment on had to live on the run. That's pretty big, Naruto said before he sighed. Look Haku, I'll tell you what. I'm really close to the leader of my village, so I can talk to him into letting you two come back with me to my village. He said with the girl looking surprised at that. But what about your team? Won't they need to be in on what you're going to do? No, I don't trust them one bit and I damn sure am not going to today. I am doing this of my own free will. He said as he turned to leave the girl behind. Think on it first, then tell me your decision on the day we meet again. Peace. He said before leaving the ice girl to gasp at that, before thinking on the boy's offer. Elsewhere, Naruto walked along the path leading to Tazuna's house, simply following the scent that he picked up from his time being in the house. He continued along the road before something caught his eye. He looked to the side and found a small crimson kid looking at him as if she needed something. He bent down on one knee and lifted his hand to the kid, which it responded in an instant by running to his hand and climbed up his shoulder. Let me guess, you're all alone, aren't you? He asked with the kid nodding, like it understood him perfectly. Naruto smirked before petting the kid on its forehead before he began walking back to the old monk's house. For some odd reason, the boy knew that the kid's parents were already dead, so it didn't surprise him when the kid didn't move. 3 days later, Naruto was sitting down at the table, which was filled with food, with a small plate for his little fox companion that he named Sasha. Sasha woke up very happy and energetic but wouldn't leave Naruto's side, not even for a second. Whenever he would walk, she would either be besides him, on his shoulder, or on top of his head. He didn't mind that she did that, only that she would fall off if he ever went too fast. During the last 3 days he had been training his little fox companion on any abilities that she has gained from him, after Kyuubi told him of a technique to give her power. She so far has received about 3 gifts from him, and 3 from Kyuubi. From him, she gained the power to use his impressive healing rate, the ability to manipulate fire and some manipulation of wind, and had a mental link with him and could speak human language, though she was still working on it. From Kyuubi, she gained a stronger sense of her trickster-like ways, and could use fox fire. But the most prominent was her ability to use some of Kyuubi's chakra. She somehow gained access to the fox's first tail and was now able to become bigger in size, though Naruto advised her to wait before Ying to shapeshift. On the day he brought Sasha back, everyone wondered where he got the fox, but Naruto simply said that he found her alone in the woods. That excuse was partially true, but his teammates believed it nonetheless. At the dinner table, they chatted about random things. The weather, different kinds of sake, even porno were a topic that had come up more than once, much to the dismay of everyone besides Kakashi and Tazuna. While they were all talking, Inari came down and joined them, but kept to himself for a majority of the dinner. Naruto heard the story about how this kid father was brutally tortured by Gato, before being publicly executed in front of everyone in the village as a form of dominance that he held over the land. Personally, Naruto felt that the people here are overestimating Gato, letting their fear get the best of them, when they should really be fighting for their home. But all they were doing was letting that fat bastard take it from them. After about 20 minutes of eating, the kid had enough and spoke, "Why are you doing this? Why are you training to fight someone like Gato? You're just going to get yourselves killed. No one can beat him, least of all you people." Quote. Naruto, who had used Inari's distraction to finish his meal, decided enough was enough. "Shut up. You're underestimating our abilities, and overestimating Gato's. He is nothing but a fat midget hiding behind his money and his mercs. The sooner you realize that, the sooner you can get on with your life and stop bothering people with your melodramatic babble," he said with Sakura looking at him with shock and was about to say something till Inari beat her to it. Inari glared at Naruto. "What do you know? You've probably lived your entire life in comfort, never having to worry about anything. You know nothing about pain and suffering." He yelled as he was about to run off, but something stopped him. The temperature in the room dropped by several degrees, and everything started to vibrate. Plants were dying both inside and out of the home, and everyone at the table was having trouble breathing. Tazuna was about 2 seconds from a heart attack, Tsunami was turning blue from lack of oxygen, and Ari had pissed himself. The sheer amount of chakra and killing intent was so great that it was becoming an oppressive force by itself, rendering them all unable to move. This was the kind of thing that would make a Hyuga's head explode, or at least make their eyes melt. Sasuke's instincts were screaming at him, telling him to get away from Naruto, but his body refused to move. Sakura was literally on the floor in the fetal position, having never even heard of something like this, let alone facing it. Kakashi was struggling with himself. One part of him was telling him to run away and never return to this unholy place, and another was telling him to stop Naruto before he leveled half of Nami no Kuni. A dark purple aura surrounded Naruto, as he seethed and breathed in heavy air. The aura began to wisp around the area, and would break scratch the walls, hit the floor, anything that caused damage to the area around the white-haired boy. His hair stood up and spiky as he glared at Inari, which made the boy piss his pants. Naruto's eyes were now black with the pupil being full a dark purple color with the energy growing stronger as his rage grew stronger. "I know nothing of pain and suffering. I know nothing of pain and suffering. Have you ever been hated for something you had no control over? Have you been hunted down like an animal on your birthday and beaten within an inch of your life? Exclamation mark. Were you forced out of an orphanage because you complained that the kids were being mean? Did you have over 50 nation attempts made on you when you were only 3 months old? Do you know what it's like to come home and neither your mom or dad is home and you are stuck wondering if they are alive or dead? To never be accepted by anyone, no matter how hard you try or what you do? Do you know what it's like to fear for your life every second of every day? Do you know what it's like to have to hide in a forest on your goddamn birthday every year because you were afraid? Do you know what it's like to have to work with the man that just sat there and watched it happen? Well, do you?" Naruto slammed his hands down on the table, breaking it in half like it was a toothpick. "Answer me, you little shit, or else I'll show true pain and suffering." Inari collapsed on the floor screaming, "No. I don't know." Over and over again. "Don't think because of your daddy's death that you know what suffering is, because in real life, you will never know my suffering," Naruto said as he turned around and walked towards the door, and punched the door off its hinges, thus scaring everyone in the room. The boy then left the house with Sasha, following him closely behind. Everyone just sat there, frozen in complete shock. That was an ordeal that they all can say without a doubt, they never wanted to experience again. Once everything calmed down a little more, they were able to move again. Sakura got up from her position on the ground and went back to her seat. "Kakashi-sensei, is everything that Naruto just said true?" she asked, as the memory of seeing Naruto in such a rage-like state was unbearable for her. "In a way, he sorta told about a quarter of what he gone through," he said, making everyone gasp. Sasuke looked like he almost felt sorry for the boy, with the key word being almost. Tsunami looked ready to cry for the boy, as she couldn't dream about a life without a parent or someone to just say that they loved you when you were younger. Kakashi sighed and looked at a still crying Inari. I wish I could tell you he didn't mean that, but even I can't make up a lie that bad. He said with everyone looking at him curiously. You see, about 6 years ago, something really bad happened to Naruto in which resulted to him almost being mentally broken. In fact, it was so bad that after the incident, Naruto began to try and commit suicide. He almost succeeded on 2 out of the 20 occasions he tried. Kakashi said with everyone just looking shocked beyond belief. Sakura in general looked shocked as she remembered Naruto always smiling and laughing things off like some sitcom. But you can't be right on that. Naruto always smiled and laughed at stupid stuff during the academy. She said, remembering his smiling face whenever she saw him. That was because it wasn't his true self. He said with everyone looking shocked, I can't go into detail about it, but Naruto wasn't always who you thought he was. In fact, Naruto hasn't been himself until 6 months ago, when he became what you see today. He said with everyone nodding at that. What happened to him that would make him even think of that? Tazuna asked. Before Kakashi could answer, the sound of a large scream was heard from the center of the forest, and the same feeling they got from before returned, though from a distance. They ran out to see a giant tower of purple chakra shoot to the sky, with Naruto's voice echoing from the tower itself. If anything, they knew one thing: do not mess with Naruto right now. 2 minutes before, Naruto was so pissed that words couldn't even explain it. He was mad far beyond what he ever thought, with the only thing remedying his anger was slashing at the trees, but even that went to its limits. How dare that little claim that his life was worse? He said as he slashed another tree with his aura continuing to grow, but for some reason, Sasha wasn't affected by it. In fact, she looked like she was becoming accustomed to it. I've been through things that little bitch will never see. He thought as his anger continued to grow, while Kyuubi grew scared as he sensed the power that Naruto took in when he beat that demon with his father's spirit began to grow. Oh shit, I gotta stop this or else he might bring it out. Kyuubi thought as he began to speak. Kid, you need to calm down. That kid didn't know what he was talking about. You're right, he didn't know what he was talking about. Nobody can ever compare themselves to me. He said with his anger growing more than lowering. I am alone in this world, with nobody that loves me. Nobody can compare themselves to me. Ah! Naruto shouted as the purple chakra that surrounded him exploded towards the sky, destroying everything in the surrounding. As quickly as the tower appeared, it left with the only indication of it ever existing with the huge circle of dirt at where it once stood. Inside the circle was a figure, but said figure looked very demonic in certain terms. His skin was pale beyond belief with long pointy ears, long silvery white hair, and purple and black eyes. This person was Naruto, who was breathing heavily with Sasha on his shoulders looking over Naruto's form. Naruto kept breathing until he fell over onto the ground unconscious, his transformation leaving him. How could I allow him to gain that form? Kyuubi said, with Nero looking at him. What's wrong with the form, Fox? Nevin asked with Kyuubi looking towards the succubus demon. That was the form of Mar, a god that was said to be the only human in the world that could control both darkness and light. But it wasn't like that at first. In fact, he was even said to be from 2 different timelines and could control all types of powers that existed in the world, but nothing compared to his light and dark powers. He was also said to have 2 transformations, one for light and darkness. That was his dark form. Kyuubi said with Nevin looking shocked. But how could he have that type of power? I thought that darkness and light were elements that have long since been lost to the world. She asked. That's only partially true. There was a rumor that said he found statues that held the power within them. When he impressed them, the statues blessed him with the power over light and darkness, and from that day forth he went by the name of Mar. But how this kid was able to access that form bothered me a little, and makes me wonder about his heritage even more. Kyuubi said as Naruto was picked up by Kakashi, who was surveying the area before bringing Naruto back to the house. 2 days later, the white-haired boy awoke the next morning due to his fox companion licking his cheek. He petted the kit's head, telling her to get off as he got up from his bed, shaking head to try and get the cobwebs out of his head. He couldn't believe the amount of power his body produced nor the transformation his body had undergone. It felt completely dark and void of life, with the only source of emotion being pure anger and rage. I wonder if I can access that form again. Naruto thought as he got up from his position and put on a pair of black pants and black gloves with the fingers removed, and the hoister for his guns around his waist. He walked down the hall into the kitchen where he saw his team and Tazuna sitting at the table, with Tsunami in the kitchen washing dishes. When he walked in, everyone was looking at him with wariness. Must have been because of that little incident, oh well. He thought as he sat down at the table, with Tsunami placing a cup of tea in front of Naruto, which the boy thanked the woman for and drank happily. Dobi, what happened to you 2 days ago? Sasuke asked, as he remembered the amount of power that Naruto was exploiting, and now wanted answers. I've been asleep for 2 days. Damn, Naruto said with Sasuke growling. Don't change the subject, answer my damn question. He said in a demanding tone that meant he was very serious about this subject. Well then, I can see someone hasn't had his hemorrhoids medication today. Tell you what, when you have that problem in check, as well as you finally discovering your true inner self, then I'll consider telling you. The boy said with Kakashi, holding his hand to his mouth as he got what Naruto was implying when he said Sasuke discovering his inner self. The Uchiha looked ready to argue again, but Kakashi got involved this time. Alright, that's enough, both of you. Now today we're all going to go and protect Tazuna at the bridge. He said with everyone nodding. Naruto got up from his seat and walked out of the door. He would just go bare-chested today, seeing as how he didn't feel like wearing his jacket. Nice to see at least one of them has enthusiastic-like ways. Kakashi thought as he, Tazuna, and the rest of Team 7 left the house, with Tsunami still tending to the dishes. About 10 minutes after they left, Naruto smelled something off to the side of the trail, blood. He went to go check it out, not bothering to tell his teammates what he was doing. He found himself in a small clearing, staring at a wild boar that had been hacked to pieces. The wounds it suffered were identical to that of a would-be samurai trying to get practice of an animal. So, the fat is trying to get some hostages. Naruto deduced, seeing that the blood was still fresh and the corpse still warm. He looked around and spotted a track of bloody footprints in the dirt, and they were heading in the direction of Tazuna's house. Kyuubi nodded at that. You better hurry there. I'm sure that they are going to possibly kill one of them in order to get the old man to submit easier. Naruto nodded and went back to his team. I'm going back to your home, Tazuna-san. It appears that Gato has sent some of his thugs after your family. Tazuna's eyes widened in fear. Well, don't just stand there telling us about it. Go. Naruto nodded slightly and disappeared with a burst of speed. Back at Tazuna's house, two samurai wannabe thugs walked down the docks to Tazuna's house and broke down the fixed door, startling Tsunami and Inari. One man was dressed in a gray hoodie, black sweatpants, Zori sandals, and a green beanie covering his bluish-green hair. He had an extremely bored look on his face, like he didn't want to be there at the time. The other man wore an eye patch over his right eye, had his limited amount of hair tied back into 3 separate ponytails, and had no shirt. He was taller than his partner by about 6 inches and had purple tattoos all over his torso and arms. He wore black hakama pants and, like his partner, Zori sandals. However, unlike his partner, he had a sadistic smirk on his less than attractive face. All right, you two, you're coming with us. Gato wants to have a word with you. The man with the beanie named Zori said, with his partner Waraji nodding his head. Now are you going to come quietly, or do we have to negotiate your coming by will or force? Waraji said, grasping the hilt of his sword. Tsunami's eyes widened, but Inari was doing something he never thought he would do. He stood in front of his mother with his arms spread across his shoulders with a look that said he wasn't scared. I won't let you hurt my mom, he said with Tsunami looking surprised before her motherly instincts kicked in and was now trying to get her son out of harm's way. No, Inari. Get away from them, it's too dangerous. Tsunami said, only for her boy to look at her with a look of determination. No, Mom, I'm going to protect you like Dad did, after all that's what heroes do. He said before the samurai wannabes looked at each other before they each smirked at each other before they both grasped their hilts. You know, Gato didn't say that both of them were needed. After all, he really just needs the bitch. Zori said with Waraji smirking up a storm. Yeah, plus we can get in a nice practice session like the other day those boars. Waraji said as he drew his sword, along with Zori, and both men charged at Inari, who closed his eyes to await the pain. Serenity, was the call he heard before the sound of men's screams and blasted to the dock was heard. He opened his eyes and saw that it was Naruto standing before him with his right arm extended, and the two men were on the dock, trying to get back up. Geez kid, you would think that you would keep your eyes open for the whole thing, but I'll just call it as your first real encounter with battle. Naruto said as he smirked at the boy, who looked shocked before he found a grin on his face. Naruto Ni-chan, you came back and saved Ka-san. He said, hugging the boy's leg, which made Naruto pat his head before trying to get the kid to let go. Inari, whatever you do, do not come outside until I say that it's okay. Naruto said with the boy looking confused. Why? He asked with Naruto form slowly being covered in red chakra as his eyes became blood red. Because I'm about to show these to wannabe samurai that you don't mess with a mother and her son while I'm around. He said as he walked towards the door, while Tsunami hugged her son. Happy that he was alive while berating him for doing something so stupid. Naruto stepped onto the docks, where he could see the samurai dusting themselves off and then griped their swords harder. Okay, brat, you caught us off guard with that move of yours, but it won't work a second time. Waraji said as he looked towards Naruto's shoulders and saw Sasha. He then got a deep grin on his face as he griped his sword. You know what? I think I'll kill that little fox first before I kill you. That way I would have killed 4 things this week instead of just 3. Waraji said, with the small kid growling in anger while Naruto's face turned emotionless. Well then, if you were the one that killed those innocent foxes, I think I should return the favor. Naruto said with Zori speaking next. Oh yeah, and how are you going to do that? He asked. By giving you both brutal deaths. He said holding up his right arm and called out, Serenity, blasting the 2 samurai off the dock and towards the ground in the back. Zori was the first to get up and held his sword in his right hand. He was about to charge at Naruto, only to find the white-haired boy was in front him with his left arm going behind Zori's back, with his right hand behind his back. Don't blink, he said as he formed a Rasengan in his right hand and slammed the swirling orb into Zori's stomach. Zori would have been blasted away, had Naruto not held Zori in a firm grip, with chakra added to his feet, to help him stick to the ground. So instead of acting as a means of sending him away, the jutsu acted like a drill, which slowly, and painfully, drilled through Zori's lower half and upper half. Naruto soon felt his arm go through Zori's body and then pulled Zori's upper half off from his lower half and through the body behind his ba. CK, or else you would regret the consequences, Naruto said with Sasha, laughing some of her fire powers on the bodies and watched as they burned to ash. Waraji couldn't believe what his eye just saw. His partner has just been drilled through his stomach and separated from the lower half of his body. He quickly got up from the ground and tried to run, only to realize that his foot was gone and he was pinned to the ground by Naruto's foot on his chest and Naruto holding Yamato. The sword was currently stabbed through the mont's elbow, making him cry out in pain, as that was one spot that held many sensitive nerves and if one was hurt then the whole arm was done for. He looked up to see the emotionless expression of Naruto, with his fox companion looking even more pissed. And the white-haired boy. Well, look at you, the guy that just a few minutes ago thought he could kill an innocent woman and her child, for a little extra bank. He said as he twisted the sword hard, making the pain cry out in pain, "People like you make me sick. All you think is that you can do evil deeds and wouldn't have to pay any repercussions for your actions. Well, I think I can tell you that your actions will be paid today," he said, twisting the blade twice before sawing the whole thing off. He would have cut it off, but what fun was that, when he could do it the slow and painful way? Waraji grabbed his arm and screamed out in pain, only for his face to get scratched up by Sasha. He watched as his pet fox tore up the Mon's face, making him suffer for the evil things he's done in his life. He then called the fox back to his shoulder, which she did without any argument. He then made a quick and deep gash across Waraji's open chest and took hold off his neck and hoisted him in the air while punching his arm into Waraji's wound and opened his palm, and began to focus chakra to his Han. Be sure to tell your partner that life is a bitch," Naruto said with his voice returning to normal, as he unleashed his third Serenity attack, but this one was his most powerful by far. Waraji felt extreme pressure build up in his body, and all of the pressure being focused to one area. His back began to form a hump with blood beginning to leak through his sweat pores. Waraji's felt so much pain that his hearing left him as well as his ability to talk, with the only thing remaining was sight. Naruto then put one more push into his move and watched as it blew the back off Waraji's body, making his body pour out the blood and guts that were built up in that area. Naruto then dropped the body, which was later burned by Sasha. He then made a shadow clone to watch Tsunami and Inari, as he raced off to the bridge. This was going to stop right here, right now. Later, Naruto arrived to find the whole area was covered in a highly thick mist. He walked through it and summoned rebellion to his hand. He saw that Sakura was standing in front of Tazuna as a means to protect him, so he made 4 clones to watch her pathetic, while he himself continued on through the mist. He looked around and saw a giant dome of ice. When he looked inside, he saw that Sasuke was getting his handed to him. He decided to get involved. In the mirrors, Haku was currently beating the shit out of Sasuke, even with he boy's newly activated bloodline. The Sharingan. Sure, at first he was able to dodge a few of them, but after a while she managed to overwhelm him and was now taking full control of the fight. She extended her hand and sent 20 Senbon at Sasuke, only to be surprised when Naruto appeared and saved Sasuke from the needles by holding the blunt end of his sword. "Dobi, what the hell are you doing? I had everything under control, you damn do," Sasuke said, only for Naruto to pull out Reaper and aimed it at his head. Shut the up," Naruto said as he pulled the trigger and nailed Sasuke right in the center of his forehead, knocking him out. Haku stepped out from her mirror and looked at Naruto with surprise evident her face. "How did you do that, Naruto-kun?" she asked, not noticing the kun suffix she added to his name. Naruto, however, smirked at the question she asked and presented his prized creations. "Well, these 2 babies are the only ladies you'll see around me all the time that will never have my babies. Angel and Reaper," started the boy with a smirk. "These 2 are a pair of customized handguns that I made a little over 5 months ago. More specifically, these babies are a pair of M1911 pistols which had at one point been the standard weapons for the military powers of the world, whereas we now use kunai and shuriken. Angel here was customized for fast draws and rapid firing. Reaper, however, was customized for comfort and long-range targeting," explained the boy, getting a curious look from the girl. "Originally what they did was fire out metal shells filled with gunpowder called bullets at high speeds. In fact, a close-ranged shot like what I hit Sasuke with would have put a hole through both ends of his heads if I'd have actually used a bullet. But since the material needed for them has been lost for so many years, they've been redesigned to still fire bullets but with a chakra-conductive metal rear so that it allows a bullet made of pure chakra to be fired that can either knock out or kill an opponent depending on how much chakra is used. As a bonus, when chakra bullets are used, it's silent. Basically, these weapons will revolutionize the ninja world if every ninja had one." Naruto said with Haku nodding. Before they could talk more, the sound of dogs barking and chirping birds were heard throughout the area. The mist cleared a little to reveal Zabuza being held down by ninja dogs with Kakashi right in front of him with a blade of lightning in his hands that gave off the sound of chirping birds. Haku's eyes widened before she looked at Naruto with sadness on her face. I'm sorry Naruto-kun, but I'm afraid I won't be able to come back with you, she said doing some one-handed seals. Naruto's eyes widened and he quickly ran towards the girl only to see her disappear from sight. Shit, idiot's going to throw her life away. Naruto said to himself as he charged towards Kakashi, if anyone can take that kind of shot and live, it would be him. Beforehand, Kakashi was breathing heavily, as the wound on his chest was beginning to weaken him. He was already focusing chakra into it in order to prevent infection, but that in fighting an SCL Nuke Nin was too much for him to handle. Zabuza is a very formidable opponent, as he developed a way to defeat the Sharingan, in the most simplest of ways. He closed his eyes. The seven swordsmen were very well known for their heightened senses and the ability to see through sound and smell. So he knew for a fact that with Zabuza's silent kill technique and the ability to fight with his eyes closed, then the only person that would get hurt was himself. I gotta end this quickly, I'm losing far too much time. He thought as he pulled out a scroll and unrevealed it. He then took some of the blood from his wound and ran his finger along the scroll and quickly rolled it back up and did some seals. He then slammed the scroll on the ground and called out, summoning Earth Release, Fang Pursuit Technique. He called out as seal patterns came out of both sides and into the ground. No matter what you do, nothing will matter. I have you trapped in my jutsu, Kakashi, said Zabuza, his voice echoing all around. A series of seals appeared in place of the scroll before shooting off into the mist, tearing up the ground as they went. In less than a minute the mist began to clear slowly as Kakashi could now make out the form of Zabuza with a pack of dogs biting into him and holding him down. If your eyes don't work, just use your nose, said Kakashi, smirking under his mask. Looking ahead of himself he saw Zabuza, two dogs biting into each of his legs, one on his right arm, one, a small pug, hanging from the tie of his Hitae, and finally one Miv bulldog biting into his left shoulder while his forepaws secured the Nuke Nin's arms. That's what happens when you have your eyes shut in the mist, lectured Kakashi while motioning to the pack of dogs. This summoning is specifically for tracking down an opponent. The reason I purposely let my blood spill twice was for the sole purpose of getting your weapons soaked in my blood. These are my cute nin dogs, their sense of smell exceeds that of all other dogs. So it seems that you are the one trapped my jutsu. The mist has cleared. Zabuza, your future is death, finished Kakashi. My future is death, said Zabuza with a scoff. I'm sick of your bullshit. Your ambition was too great. You abandoned Mizu no Kuni and became a Nuke Nin, with your story even reaching the Hidden Leaf. On top of this, your attempted coup d'etat and the I Nation of the Mizukage both failed. Needing money for revenge as well as needing to avoid the Hunter Nin, you ended up having to attach yourself to slime like Gato, spoke Kakashi quietly. Ox, hare, monkey, thought Kakashi while going through seals. As soon as he finished, the seal's chakra began to surround him as well as covering his hands soon before the sound of 1,000 birds chirping began to fill the air. Reikiri, exclaimed Kakashi, holding his wrist with his left hand as the chakra formed around his hand. I'll say this one more time, Zabuza. Surrender, your future is death, he said with Zabuza trying to move his body, but couldn't as the dog's grip was too strong. And I'll say this once, go yourself, he yelled as he kept trying to get loose, but sadly to no avail. Very well then, I'm sorry, he said before he charged at him head-on while Zabuza mentally smirked to himself. Hook, line, and sucker, he thought to himself as he got ready to counter, but something changed all that. It was at that very moment Haku appeared before him and had her arms out, ready to take the shot for her master. No. Damn it, Haku, what are you doing? He asked himself as he saw Kakashi getting closer to both of them with his arm extended, meaning that he couldn't stop himself. Naruto saw what the girl just did and added more chakra to his feet. He needed to get there before it was too late. Zabuza was now in a huge dilemma, as Kakashi charged at him with Haku acting as a shield. One, he could let Haku take the shot for him, while he gets ready to finish Kakashi off, or he could use his remaining strength to save the girl he looked at as a daughter. He wanted to live, but not at the cost of his only daughter's life. So he unlatched his right arm from the dog's mouth, and backhanded Haku away from Hit, placing him at the mercy of Kakashi's jutsu. Haku was ready to end her life to save Zabuza, until she felt a hit from behind her and was now on the ground, out of Kakashi's range. When she looked up, her eyes widened in horror as Kakashi stabbed Zabuza through his chest, making the man cough up blood before he fell backwards as the dogs let go of their grip. He was let down slowly by Kakashi, as Haku ran to his side with tears streaming down her face. "Please Zabuza, don't die. I can't lose you like I lost my mother," she said with tears streaming harder. She soon felt a hand rub her cheek and saw Zabuza reach for his mask and pulled it off, revealing his face to her, to show that he was doing something she thought she would never see. He smiled. He smiled a real and genuine at her for the first time that she has known that man. "It's okay Haku, I want it to end like this. The only regret that I have is that I couldn't be here to see my daughter become a woman," he said, coughing up blood, but didn't see the shocked look on Haku's face. What? A daughter?" she said with the man nodding at her, his smile still on his face. "Yep. You are the closest thing that I'll ever have to a child, and I never been more proud to call you my daughter. Keep my name alive, make the name Momochi continue to be feared throughout the nations through you," he said as he saw Naruto approaching him with a solemn look on his face. "You never gave me my rematch, old man. I demand that you try to live long enough for it," Naruto said with the man chuckling at that. "Sorry boy, I would love to fight you again, but my body is too weak to try, but can you do me at least this favor, take care of Haku. Protect my daughter with your life, or else my ghost will haunt you for the rest of your days," he said with Naruto nodding his head. "You can count on me Zabuza," Naruto said with the man thanking him before looking at Haku. "Haku, in my pocket is a scroll that I've been meaning to give you for your 16th birthday. Use it wisely my daughter," he said with Haku nodding, though the tears wouldn't stop falling. "May your soul find peace in the afterlife, Momochi Zabuza," Naruto said with the man giving off a weak laugh. "Please, I'm going to hell. A glorious place meant for demons, monsters, and devils. My kind of party," he said with his eyes closing and his arm going limp. Haku then burst further into tears and hugged Naruto, who took hold of her and rubbed her back, while he saluted the now deceased swordsman once known as the Demon of the Mist. Well, look at this, seems the famed Demon of the Mist was nothing more than a baby demon. A mocking voice from the other end of the unfinished bridge said, along with the chuckles of several others. "Still, even if you'd have won, I'd have still killed you anyway. Shinobi are too expensive for my taste. Hell, for what I was paying you I could get all these guys and still have some left over," Gato said as he and his mercs all stood on the other end of the bridge. Naruto saw Gato and told Haku to close her eyes. She nodded and did as he said before he told her that he'll be right back. The white-haired boy began to walk towards Gato with rebellion dragged on the ground before the sword rested on his shoulder. "Tell me something Gato. Why is it that you feel as though you're invincible when all you are is nothing but a scrawny loser?" Naruto said as he let the dark aura return to his body. "Don't come any closer, brat, or else you want to die right here, right now," Gato said with Naruto laughing out loud as the aura grew stronger and pointed the sword towards Gato. "I got a much better idea. How's about I kill you right here, right now?" he said with his voice turning demonic. Gato grew scared as he backed up from the boy and stood in front of one of his mercs. "That does it. I want all of you to kill this brat right now. The person that does gets a handsome bonus in their check," he said with all of them charging at Naruto, who smiled a smile that spoke one word. Insanity. Okay, then you asked for it. Devil skill. Nevin art. Demonic thunderstorm. Naruto said as he stabbed Rebellion into the ground. A huge blast of thunder fell from the sky and struck Rebellion, while successfully destroying all the mercs in a single blast, leaving all dead but Gato, who was now staring at Naruto in fear. The white-haired boy entered his dark form once more, with his fox companion standing firmly on his should. RS. Naruto then disappeared and reappeared in front of Gato with a devilish-looking grin on his face. Oh, what's the matter, little Gato? Are you scared of the big bad devil? Naruto said, kicking Gato's ribs, breaking a few of them in the process. Gato cried out in pain only to have Naruto grabbed hold of his neck and began to squeeze. Gato, before I kill you, I need you to do one favor for me. When you see Kaiza, the father of that little boy Inari, tell him you're sorry. Naruto said before he applied so much pressure that it busted Gato's windpipe. Naruto then tossed him towards the end of the bridge, but the white-haired boy wasn't finished. He then raised his sword and called out, "Stinger," and hit the man between his chest in a quick burst of dark purple energy. The blast was enough to tear his body to shreds and let the remaining pieces of flesh fall into the water below. Naruto panted before his transformation left him and fell over unconscious. 1 week later, Naruto got up from his bed, with one major headache to match. He didn't know what happened, but for some reason he blacked out after he took out Gato and his thugs. I guess it was probably thanks to that transformation I still have no knowledge of. I gotta understand it first before I try to access it. He thought as he got out of the bed and saw that he still had on his black pants and black gloves. As he got out, his door opened to reveal Haku coming in wearing her pink yukata and Sasha on her shoulder. When the ice user saw that Naruto was up, she ran to him and gave him a huge hug, while the fox licked his face letting him know that she was happy. Naruto-kun, you're okay, I'm so glad, she said, placing her head on his chest, while silently enjoying how they felt. Naruto-kun, since when did you start calling me Naruto-kun? The white-haired boy asked, with the girl blushing before she let go and did a click Hinata move and pressed her index fingers together. Sorry, I'm just happy to see that you're awake, Haku said, with Naruto smirking as he laying back down on the bed, with the ice user sitting down on the other end. Anyway, what happened while I was out? He asked. You were out for about a week. During that time Tazuna finished his bridge with Team 7 and the whole village. Kakashi's been helping the Uchiha with his Sharingan, that pink-haired girl been helping Tsunami, while at the same time tried to come see you, but that fox of yours wouldn't even allow her in the room, she said, with Naruto looking at Sasha and petted her head and said, good girl, before he gave his attention back to the ice girl. I've been taking care of you since your fox would only let me near you. And that's been it, besides Inari talking about how his Ni-chan saved the village, she said with a smile on her face, as she could tell that the kid must really care about Naruto. So what are you going to do now? Quote, Tsunami-san has offered to let me stay here if I wanted. But I was thinking that perhaps I could accompany you back to your village, maybe become a real medic nin like I always wanted, said Haku, as she smiled at the half-devil. I'd like that, said the boy, said with a smile on his face. Me too, you know you're my first real friend, said Haku, with Naruto giving her a confused look. I always thought Zabuza-san only saw me as a weapon, but he saw me as family, a daughter even. You however are my first true friend, the first person to ever tell me I was more than a weapon. Besides, I think it would be more fun if I stay with you, she said, with Naruto giving her a smirk. Alright, but know this, when you're around me, nothing is ever the same, he said before ping out. The girl then climbed in the bed and placed her head on his chest. I can already tell, she said before her eyes closed and she fell asleep. Today was the day that everything will change for these two. And break. Another one down. Now I'm sure you all are wondering what will happen in the Chunin exams, right? Oh no. You see, I recently decided upon a new idea for a new arc, and I think after that I'm going to do the Fire Temple arc and maybe the Raiga Kurosaki arc after that, or one of the Mo. Vise. I will be writing the Chunin exams, but I want Naruto and several other characters at certain levels by the time I hit that arc in possibly chapter 20 or 25. Who knows? Also, if you're wondering what the hell did I do for Naruto now, I tell you. It was a little game trilogy known as the Jack Trilogy. Naruto is now like Jack with Sasha running the role of Daxter. I also want Naruto to be like Jack in Jack 2 because that one kicked a lot of when it came out, and you'll have to wait and see how I make him like Jack in Jack 3. Oh, and if you watched WrestleMania 25, you would now know that Carlito and Primo are double champions, CM Punk is Mr. Money in the Bank once more, John Cena as the champ again, Undertaker keeps the streak at 17-0, and Triple H whooped the of Randy Orton. Until next time.